sold the ripe peaches that they couldn't ship because they were too ripe was out in front of our house because we were right on the road that went through the state. So I ran the peach stand.
How old were you?
I wasn't even in school. They had to teach me how to count money and give the change and everything. I was too young to go to school. One day I had some people come that had bought some peaches in California on the way up. And I said, well, our peaches are so much better than the California peaches. Really? They said, yes, they have more flavor. They're just much better. So they bought a few. And they said, you're right. I tried to eat them. You're right, they are more flavorful. Liked California, and we always on Saturdays we'd fix a lunch and go take the children and go on an outing somewhere and see things that were going on. Long before they started the home thing, the families having a home evening, we had them all the time. Went places. I did buy that little car to drive because it was making me car sick to ride the bus. So I bought an older car. So when Dan and I got married, that was our first car that we had to drive. We called the car Soupy. I had it painted a kind of a yellow-green color, and Rex, Dan's older brother, he always named everything. And so he named my car Soupy. I thought it was because of the color. I later found out that it was because of the way I drove it. He thought I drove too fast. Well, after I pay the bills, what do we eat? They had taken so much out of his wages that there was no money left to eat. So he went down and got a job sweeping out another school after he got through teaching all day, so that we had money to buy food to eat. School, graduated from high school, I was engaged to Dan and he went on his mission. When I dated him the last year of my high school, and he was, but as soon as he gave, his father even helped him get an engagement ring to give to me. And I found out a long time later that the minute he went to the bishop and he said, look, he's engaged now, but you've got to send him on a mission right away so he doesn't get married till after he goes on his mission. So I had to wait for Dan. I remember Dan saying to me, if you don't take my engagement ring, I'm not going. So I was engaged to him while he went on his mission, which was a bad thing because I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go on any dates or anything. I had a cousin that came to town and he wanted me to go to the movie with him, and I said, I don't dare because people will see us and they'll think you're a date and you're just my cousin. Yeah, we were some of the first people that went to Disneyland. I remember James Faust bringing his family down and they were staying overnight with us when we were in California. And we told him he should take his family to Disneyland. And he says, well, it's too expensive. And we said, well, it's so wonderful. You just can't not go. You have to go. So we talked him into going to Disneyland with his family. And later he said that, because the tickets, we felt like they were they're nothing compared to what they are now. They're really high. But anyway, he bought the tickets and went. And he said after he walked down Main Street at Disneyland, he said, I have my money's worth right here. Dinner on Sundays at the Faust because they invited me to come. They always had a real nice Sunday dinner because Dan's grandmother was being taken care of by Dan's uncle, Jim, the one that his brother Jim was named after. He took care of grandmother, but they always had Sunday dinner and they went out there to Sunday dinner. So they always invited me to come. I know one time I was busy with something else and I had to come later, but they saved the money, they saved the meal for me. So I went out to the kitchen, they got it out of the oven and fixed the meal for me. And then I remember Dan's father sitting there with me for a little while and said, we sure appreciate you coming. He was real nice about it. And we had a that always shut well after you went out, because it had a spring on it that shut it so the flies wouldn't come in. Well, anyway, I followed her out the door, and the spring brought that door back, and it hit my foot as I went out the door. And after a while, my foot was hurting, and I was starting to walk caught on the side of my foot some way. So she took me to St. George, to the doctor there. And that wasn't a very prized doctor, because he looked at my foot and he said to my mother, well, I think we'll have to cut it off. Just cut the foot off. And my mother talked to grandfather, who lived in Salt Lake, and he said, no, you're not going to let them do that down there in St. George. Let some old doctor cut that foot off. You bring her up to Salt Lake to the specialist. So they took me to Salt Lake. The specialist wrapped my foot in a way to wrap it so that it would stay in place and I wouldn't be walking on it wrong. And I was not supposed to walk on it. They had it so it would stay in place where it was supposed to be, and made me sit on the bed all day. I wasn't supposed to walk around. And they didn't have TV for me to watch, or I can't remember if they gave me books. I was so little. I can't remember reading books either. But anyway, I got tired. One day I got so tired of being on that bed that I pulled everything off of my foot, got out of bed, went downstairs, went outside, I was walking down the walk outside, and pretty soon they discovered me, came and got me, took me back up there. But my foot was feeling fine. I'm just walking along feeling great. I wondered, why am I doing this? Teenager sitting in church, and all of a sudden the thought came to me, what if it isn't true? Because up at that point I thought it was true, all right, but I'm just sitting there, and all of a sudden what if it isn't true? And so I started doing more studying and praying about it. Recently, I've figured out that we really do need the Spirit of the Holy Ghost to tell us strongly that it's true. And so when I prayed about it like that and studied, the Holy Ghost told me, yes, it is true. And I knew that very strongly, and always have after that.